Welcome to Bell Peppers and Beef, a Cowboy Bebop podcast. This week we're talking about Session 22, Cowboy Funk. I'm Paul.
And Justin.
And Dave.
Alright, Dave. You apparently want to talk about this episode, so go right ahead.
I suppose we'll need to start with the synopsis. And it all starts out with the little teddy bear.
Teddy.
Exactly. But anywho's, Spike's on the chase for the supposed teddy bear bomber. And the first little particular thing that sort of alerted me to this episode, Spike has a somewhat cheesy conversation with the criminal he's after of all the particular stuff that's going on. And I'm just like, Cowboy Bebop, what are you doing? Then they have to mention Andy.
And at this point, you kind of forget who the criminal in this episode is, because he's not really the main focus.
He's not a focus in this episode.
No, and he tries his hardest to be.
But before we get to that, did somebody bother to call a horse because it decides to break through the window?
You know what, Dave? You clearly have issues with this episode. Why don't you just get them off your chest? Let's not worry about the synopsis this week. The floor is yours, good sir. Say what you need to say.
Honestly, as it is, I can contain myself until the end to let all this particular stuff out. Let's just continue on with things. But anyways, we get introduced to Andy, the cowboy, riding a bloody horse, looking for the cowboy bomber, who he mistakes Spike a being. And then they have a particular discussion of it. The bomber runs up, things explode. It's just, fail.
It's one of my favorite lines, though. Faces aren't trustworthy. Because it's true. Because everybody gets plastic surgery in this series. So I wouldn't trust faces either.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, continue on, good sir.
So, after getting run over by Andy, with him running off into the sunset, Spike heads back to the Bebop and informs everybody else of the story.
And Ern's wearing an 80s wig.
Ein is wearing a wig, and it's adorable.
That, I do have to admit, is mildly hilarious with seeing him go on like that. But Jet and Faye don't bother believing Spike that this cowboy comes in and stops him from getting the bounty. Of course, with the fact that he has flippin' hoof prints on his back.
Yeah, that's not evidence enough. Because it sounds too cheesy.
But anyway, then there's that wonderful line where they would have believed Spike if it was a samurai. Just,
Don't worry, that's not going to come up again. Oh, wait.
So anyway, after a decent Faye burn, Ed does a little bit of research and turns out that this Andy is a rich boy looking for thrills. And he supposedly signed up to be part of a cowboy group, but they kicked him out by being too obnoxious, which quite honestly I have to flip and agree with, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll give Paul a second before he dies. Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to catch your breath there, dude.
Rest in peace, Paul.
I might die in this episode.
So, they decide to find the cowboy bomber who supposedly mentioned he was going to hit this masquerade ball at this tower.
Yeah, so everyone's all in dress-ups, and we get some, like,
And he's
70s jets, I would call them.
70s
Love
jet.
and peace. And he has, like, a marijuana symbol shirt and everything.
I do have to admit, that was mildly funny and hilarious. It sadly dropped off a little bit for me. That one interesting thing was Faye making that particular comment when she went there, of, there's supposedly a serial bomber here.
It's like, yeah, this
And
isn't
the guy just
suspicious
like,
at all.
Costume Party doesn't bother with it at all. It's like, is nobody concerned about the threat message that was sent off on the bounty hunting TV show, and no TV news report bothered making note of that? Anyway.
First, I must go through the reason why I have to do all this, but we ran out of time. Sorry.
So then, of course, they run into the cowboy, or the teddy bomber, who just happens to be dressed up as a teddy bear. Wow. Wonderful disguise there, dude.
Wow, great costume.
But then, of course, we get the second thing in the warning of Andy's coming.
Oh, right, the horse in the elevator.
Oh, no. The whistling.
The whistle.
Oh,
the
whistle.
Bloody whistling. But then, yes, he shows up in an elevator riding a horse. But then, of course, I have to agree with Paul that there's one particular line that comes up with Andy that shows up that was mildly hilarious. With Andy mentioning that his horse is a very good horse. It's very dependable and it's great at playing chess.
But horses can't play chess.
I think it was more of, but horses can't play chess. But of course, with that argument and discussion, guess who decides to make a run for it and set off all the bloody bombs?
Oh yeah, that one guy who's a criminal.
So, chase scene ensues. Faye decides to go with Andy since she wants to get in on the action and doesn't know any bloody better. And a chase scene ensues with a whole bunch of giant explosions, and then at a certain point, Andy and Jet just kind of completely forget there's a bounty and just kind of chase each other. And like, guys, bounty's that way. Where are you? For the love of God. So, coming back to things, Faye decides to go to Andy's humble abode on a yacht.
I guess, for whatever reason, Faye just ends up with him, with Andy. Just because...
He's rich.
Yeah.
And Faye has a lot of debt.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see if I can get with this guy. No, he's too stupid. But I brought back a whole bunch of his whoop-ass can of soup or whatever. I don't know what it was called.
It's like a stew or something, yeah.
And then, of course, the particular point that they've been kind of alerting to, Andy and Spike are mildly similar.
Supposedly.
And the sad thing is, it's mildly true.
Mildly. One is slightly more obnoxious.
I don't know about that.
No, they're both fairly obnoxious. Just in different senses.
Okay.
Spike's kind of an asshole.
While Andy is an absolute god damn idiot.
Well, yeah, at least Spike doesn't come riding in on his horse and playing chess with his horse or anything like that.
Anyway, the Teddy Bomber decides to send out a message specifically to Spike and Andy to come and capture the bloody guy. So Spike shows up.
I'm out here, catch me, damn it!
And we get a mild whistle warning, but it turns out it's just one of the guys from the trio whistling.
Yeah, obviously.
As he's just walking along.
Obviously, Spike's not after him himself, he's after Andy.
But then Andy shows up. And then it turns into a showdown of Andy and Spike. And the Cowboy Bomber's like, I want this business to be about me. So he locks them in the elevator, sends them up, and gets them into a giant explosion. And then they both die, and that's the end of the series. The end.
No, that's not the end of the series. For whatever reason, they survived the explosion.
You wouldn't let me kill Edward at the end of episode 9.
No.
Even though I really wanted to.
And Teddy Bomber gets captured by Faye because, you know...
someone has to catch him.
At least they get a bounty, then.
So, with them still alive, they need to settle things once and for all, so they go run off the building, defying all gravity and whatnot, decide to have their fight.
For a top of the building fight.
And they decide to have their fight, which, on the one hand, is somewhat appreciated, because on the one hand, Spike is a decent enough fighter and can manage himself in the fight. And for the most case, I'd have to say that Andy is a decent enough shot for how many shots he decided to take. But Andy is not a bloody well fighter. Every single time he managed a decent hit on Spike, it was out of blind dumb luck. But of course, it all had to end with just one single punch.
Yeah,
with Spike punching a desk, causing the momentum of things enough to cause Andy to fall off the building. It was like, yes, Andy is finally out of this.
No, he's not.
But then he holds on to the side of the cliff and just climbs back up and is like, are you done? Does Spike have to finish you? Please say Spike has to finish you. But then the worst possible thing has to happen. Andy admits defeat to him and gives him his cowboy hat and makes Spike the space cowboy that the show's been referring to for a decent amount of episodes.
He is space cowboy. And then he rides off on his horse.
And it's just... what? Just... what?
Actually, no, his horse comes up in the elevator and he kinda...
How did it ride the elevator?
I don't know, I'm just explaining it.
Horses don't have fingers.
No, he just headbutts the button or something. Maybe they have like a...
Despite the fact that the one particular thing was stupid, I was mildly happy when Andy said, "See you, space cowboy," because it was the one particular line that's repeated in most of the episodes.
Yeah,
but
very
still, and it's not even over.
Well, of course not. You have to hear the reason why Teddy Bomber wanted to blow things up.
I
suppose. Yeah, his whole
suppose.
rant about capitalism, and it's... Oh, I love it. Dave, I think you really, really want to get to the last moment of this episode, so...
Show them as a bloody samurai!
See his space samurai.
Just...
Okay. Have you got everything out, Dave?
As it sits, this episode is stupid and asinine with all the stupid stuff that it went through. And it's absolutely fucking hilarious, so I can't fault it for that. It makes me even more angry at it.
It's a love-hate relationship because it's...
It's not even love-hate, it's clearly...
Brain,
I
why
guess-
do you have to find these sorts of things funny?
I
But
guess-
as it sits, if there has to be a particular character within the series that we wish was dead in some sense, my vote is for Andy. Because, dear God, he drove me nuts.
Oh, I wanted an Andy spin-off.
No, we get Space Dandy instead.
No, I want that changed. It's Space Andy. He goes around riding his horse.
In space.
I'm not...
Dun, 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 Space Andy. Dun, 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 dun. Tell me you wouldn't watch that.
I don't know, that'd be mildly entertaining, but it would probably be a one-off.
You got everything out now, Dave?
I think so.
Okay. Justin, what did you think of this episode? 13 and a half minutes later.
It's brilliant. What are you talking about?
Because horses can't play chess.
Well, yeah, it brought in so many, it was a very entertaining episode.
Oh, it's really funny.
Yes. Just every bizarre thing they can think of that could happen in the series, like an actual horse, an actual cowboy. You don't generally see all that much. Some cheesy cowboy music that comes on in and a whistle. Yeah, it's just kind of throwing like a bunch of cowboy cliches in this. And an otherwise non-cowboy show in that regard. I don't know. But it was very, very entertaining.
I loved this episode. Almost as much as I loved listening to David rant about it. That might have been the greatest thing I've seen in the last year or so. But I love this episode. I love the stupid little jokes like horses can't play chess or somehow the horse being in the elevator. I love it. I love Andy. I think he's a funny character. Even though apparently Dave hates him. With the fiery passion of hell.
Fortunately, Andy is a one-off character.
Thank bloody God.
No. Andy should be replacing Edward.
Nope.
Yes.
Nope.
Yes.
Nothing replaces Edward.
Mm.
The last thing we need are two people so bloody well similar that it would drive several people nuts.
But that was the best part. Is that Andy and Spike are mere reflections of each other.
Yeah, the only difference being is Andy is rich, apparently, for some reason.
I wouldn't say that.
And he has a brand of soup.
I wouldn't say that. They're closely similar to each other. Where Spike, I would supposedly say with the background that we understand about him, has kind of lived life under the pressures that the mafia sort of business is sort of brought upon. But Andy, on the other hand, is a spoiled, rich boy that decides one day, oh hey, I want to be a cowboy, go out and take care of these bounties, and just so happens to be decent at it without getting himself bloody well killed.
Despite being obnoxious.
They're both assholes. Like, there's no way around that.
I am not denying that. I can stand Spike's assholery. I cannot bloody well stand Andy's.
Okay, well, I adored Andy. I thought he was hilarious.
But anyway, as it sits, I'm going to have to agree with you guys. I don't hate this episode. There's definitely a decent amount of things that irk me about it, but it's not enough to throw everything else out the window. All the jokes hit their mark, and it was hilarious for what it did. But on my scale, it drops it down to around 7 to 6.5.
Okay. Justin, do you have a score or a rating or whatever?
I want to give this episode a solid 9.
A 9? Wow.
9.
A 9 or a 9?
9. Annoying?
Well, at first I thought it was... Oh, never mind. I was going to make an avoid the annoying joke, but...
No.
Anyway, I really love this episode. Maybe not as much as Justin. I'd probably give it about an 8.5. But I had a great time watching it, and an even better time listening to David rant about it. I think I lost 5 pounds laughing so hard.
On the one hand, I'm happy I could give you a laugh.
Alright, Dave, any last minute thoughts?
Thank God Andy is that one-off character.
Justin.
Too bad he's the one-off character.
And in closing, Andy should have replaced Edward. Bye!